Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey guys, I'm Nariman Hamden, and this is Driven Unscripted Success podcast. We have another awesome guest on today. We have Maritza Davila. Maritza is a business consultant. She helps grow businesses all over the place. So how are you doing, Maritza?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. Where are you zooming in from?
I am in Colombia right now on a family vacation.
Oh, that's really nice. And I know you're from Naples-area as well.
Yes, I live in Naples, Florida.
Yeah, well, like we talked off camera, we'll have to get together when you get in town because I'm also from Naples.
Yes, that'd be great. I'd love to.
Awesome. So why don't we kick things off by you telling us about what you do and how you got into what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. So what I do is I work with business owners that have a team. Typically, that's usually my client, and I help them to grow their business. And so a lot of times they're in the service industry in one way or another. And so a lot of different businesses. So I'd like to say I am industry agnostic, but it is typically a service-based business. And I work with owners that really care about their teams, but they are typically really kind of stuck in the day-to-day in the operations. They work more as an operator than they do as an owner. And so I help them to kind of zoom out a bit and see okay, if we are not intentionally growing this company, then it's very reactive. And it always ends up affecting, the culture, not just your revenue and your profit, right? But a lot of times people will grow businesses that they end up hating because they weren't intentional about how they grow it. So I help a lot with that. And I got into this because if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I always wanted to help business owners. And so throughout the years, over the past few years, I had helped different business owners in different capacities. So some in sales, more of a sales focus, another one in more of operations focus, some in some marketing. So, and in different businesses. And then it wasn't until I worked with a business owner that was very much a visionary. And he just added me on to his business. He had 3 different businesses, and he wanted me to be his right hand and, just do it, I have a big vision, but help me to make it come to life. It wasn't until I worked with him, and it was more of a contract base. So I was there for about 3.5 months when I saw that by adding me on, we were able to 5x the revenue of his business in such a short amount of time. Yeah. And so that's when I realized, wait a second, there are 2 different business owners. I like to think there's one that's they're really good at sales. They're really good at relationships. They're really good at having big ideas and all that. But then there's someone else that usually is really good at implementing and making sure the thing runs like a well-oiled machine. And I am more the second one than the first one, even though I love relationships. And so I still do great there. But I learned I can be kind of like that missing plug for certain business owners to see things in different ways that typically they wouldn't. So.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you this. So when you think back, are there any moments that you'd say really changed the game for you in your career?
Yes. When I look back, when you start as an entrepreneur, I don't know if this happened with you, but it did happen with me, where you're learning so many different things, so many different areas where, what's the lead magnet and how do I make a funnel to, what's the sales tactic to use or, there's so many things you don't know. And you basically are horrible at all of them in the very beginning because you have to build up that skill set, right? And so in the beginning, I would beat myself up a lot about, not being like great at everything from the very get-go. And then I realized there are some things I'm naturally good at. And so once I started focusing on the things that I'm naturally good at, is when I started seeing success. Because while there are certain areas that you should develop as an entrepreneur that maybe don't come naturally, there are other areas that come so easily for us that if you are able to identify those, then that's really like your niche, your secret sauce,
Sure, yeah. Then you can capitalize on it and nurture it and grow from there to become even better, which
100%.
which turns into being able to help your client out,
Right.
Yeah.
Because what you think is like, and a lot of times we downplay our strengths,
Sure.
because we think, well, that's not that special because it's always been easy for us. But when other people look at it, they're like, I could never, like do that. So it's realizing the special, gift that, God put in you, God made in you. And how can I use this to really serve other people?
Sure. So, how do you deal with taking risks? Is there a time when when rolling the dice really worked out for you?
Well, a lot of times, but a lot of times it didn't, right? So risk is
Yeah.
risk. I like to think that you need to have some courage if you're going to be successful in any area of life, because, whether it's business or marriage or you want to get healthier, it's risk. To me is like, you need to take a step without knowing, like what's going to happen and just believing that it's going to be better. The one risk that I think I took that really set the foundation for even my entrepreneurial life was basically my husband. From the moment that before we got married, he told me, do you want to buy a house or do you want to buy a multifamily property? And I told him I want to buy a multifamily property, but
Sure.
it was his idea though, right? So I
Right.
give him the credit. And that's what we bought that was our first real estate purchase. And that set me up to be able to take on bigger risks because I had something that monthly is obviously bringing me income,
Cash
rental
flow.
income.
Yeah.
And so that cash flow has essentially lowered the risk as far as financially. I have a little bit more, how can I say? I just have
Stability.
more room to play with, right? Because I
Sure.
don't have to worry about paying my bills every month. So it's like, okay, well, this lowered the risk, but when I was first buying it, I knew nothing, right? So
Yeah.
it's very risky, like
That is that.
when we
Yes.
first did it. But like, because you don't know anything about tenants,
No.
property management, construction, rehab. You don't know anything about that. But
Sure.
now I can look back and say that was such a great, like, it set me up really to be able to do
For
the things
sure.
today.
Yeah, and it gives you that financial stability,
100%.
with that recurring monthly, rent coming in, and then you pay your expenses, and then you've basically got a cash cow. It's just cash flow coming in every month. Not to
100%.
not to
And
mention the tax
we're living,
advantages that you get on that as well.
right.
You know.
And I mean, the cash flow is great. And I mean, I know there's people that say like, I don't buy for cash flow. I don't know who you are because like I will always buy for cash flow.
Right. I'm
Um,
not looking to babysit tenants. Like,
yeah, exactly. But you also get so many other benefits from it, right? The equity that comes with that, the pay down principal from the tenants. Like there's so many things. So that was a risk that we took when I was very young, and it paid off, thankfully, because it doesn't always pay off, and I know that, but it did, and it really helped me to take on bigger risks down the road.
that's fantastic. So, what's a skill or habit you think doesn't get enough credit contributing to your success?
A skill or a habit. I would probably say a habit that I have that doesn't get enough credit is that I always talk about work or business with my husband. And he gives me a different perspective that I don't have.
Sure.
And it helps me to grow far further than I would if I was just doing it alone. So
Um,
I think that getting other counselors, so for me, it's my husband and I ask other people, but I think it's a habit because in an abundance of counselors, you have victory. And so I think that a lot of times we think we know it all and it doesn't help us. But I've always been, and it's not like I'm going to listen to everybody because I don't want everyone's opinion, like I can
Sure.
make my own decisions.
Yeah, it gets too
But
noisy.
yeah, it gets a little too noisy. But there are certain people that I really value their opinion and how they see things in the world and in business and marriage. I mean, so many different things. And I like to ask them. And so one of them is obviously my husband, but other people, I do have a couple other people that I like to ask when I'm not sure about what I should do because they're going to give me a different perspective and maybe a different viewpoint than I would have seen myself.
Sure, sure. So I'm sure leading a team has its challenges. What's your leadership style? And can you give us an example of how it helped you out through a tough spot?
Yeah. So my leadership style, I like to reward performance. And I'm very much I don't want to tell people exactly how to do something because I want to see how they think it through. And I want people to develop their own leadership because I think everyone could be a leader in some
Sure.
capacity. And so I like to tell people, obviously, a general idea, or the people under me, general idea about how I would like something done. Like I want to tell them the end result, but I don't want to tell you like step 1, step 2, or step 3, because I think you have, a brain, Google and ChatGPT, and you could figure it out,
Sure.
So,
Sure, you don't need to
so-
micromanage. It's like,
yeah, I'm not a micromanager at all. And so it's like if the results are like I care about the results. And so the how is really not important to me. It's way more of like where am I trying to get to and where, so I think that is difficult sometimes for some people when they're not used to that, because a lot of times I've seen leaders that are like micromanagers, and that's what maybe they have received in the past. And so maybe they think that's what they need to do. But there's only certain things that are really important to me. But aside from that, it's like, let me give you the end result and you figure out how to do it. And so I think it helps build people's internal leadership so that they have to have that, I can make it happen
Sure.
attitude, and so,
Sure.
and if you don't, by me doing that to you, it puts you in a moment of like, you feel a little risky because maybe you haven't had that ability or that opportunity. But once you do it over and over again, I can handle this, and nothing really gets in the way.
Sure, yeah. It kind of puts them in a vulnerability stage, phase where they're like, it's unknown, it's something new they have to learn, but they're they're in their comfort zone of what they already know. But once, you push through and it works out, I mean, it's such an empowering feeling.
It's so empowering. And I think that we need to empower people in companies, right? And so even if you have like an administrative assistant that, maybe is doing calendars and email, like, things that are foundational,
Sure.
if you put a little bit more responsibility on them, I like to see like how much farther people can go. And that's one of the things I talk to about with my clients, because they're very used to, like the client that I typically work with, they're very used to putting everything on themselves because that's how they got their business to work. They have
Sure.
momentum in their business already. So you're so used to, let me do this, and let me do that, and I tell them, okay, but like that's you need to also empower your employees and your team, because if you're the one resolving and solving every problem, it's going to be a cage. You're building a cage for yourself, you know?
Sure.
And so, let's start to empower your employees. And so sometimes when I'm facilitating a leadership meeting with them and their team, and I see that I've seen this and and I'm like, okay, so who's going to do this? And it's always like the owner starts to, like after a while, you start seeing like, I have to talk to them a little bit because it's like, well, you have a team for a reason. They have to,
Sure.
they have to take on the charge. And so, teaching them to how to empower their own employees and stuff like that.
Sure, because they're so used to doing it on their own because they created everything and had to grind to get to that point. And then as they're bringing people onto their team to grow the business even more, they they then have to learn how to delegate job responsibilities to each area and each individual and bring it all together cohesively as well, which, a lot of entrepreneurs will have that challenge in the beginning, where they just want, answer all the questions, just no problem, I'll just do it, and then their team is just standing there, twiddling their thumbs like, well, what am I here for?
Right. 100%.
It's
I like
almost
to tell, I like to tell them, you can't steer the ship if you're busy bailing water.
Yes, that's a great analogy. Absolutely. Absolutely. So so when you're building your dream team, what's the one trait you always look for and why?
The one trait I'm always looking for is something that I kind of alluded to before, is that type of person that has that I can make it happen attitude, even if they don't have the knowledge or the experience to say, hey, I can. It's like there's just this, I see it a lot, even in like the oldest sibling or like the oldest daughter, you'll see little things about that where it's like, oh, you should be doing this way, or like, because they were trained. I don't know about you, but like I'm not the oldest, I'm actually the youngest in my family.
Okay.
But my sister is someone that I would think of that's like that, because we're immigrants, right? We came from Colombia to the US, and she was the translator, the accountant, the cleaning lady, all this different things, helping your parents, right? And so when you come from that kind of a background, you could go to another country, you could do something else. And I'm not worried about, I've never been there, or I don't know how to do this operations, or I don't know how to do this market. I've never been in the marketing world. Sure. Okay, great. I'm sure I could figure this out though. Like, I'm resourceful. And so I like to think someone that is resourceful is is a trait that I'm always looking for in people.
Sure. Yeah. It's a big asset to have somebody that's a go-getter and a doer that will make it happen.
100%.
They're not afraid of the challenge, and they're like, okay, I guess I'll figure it out, and along the way, as you're figuring it out, you might not know everything, but then they know how to ask for help because they're in that mindset, so that's pretty
100%.
Cool. So how do you encourage your team to think outside the box and bring new ideas to the table?
Typically, I will ask, that I would say, and also rewarding when they do what I like them to do.
Hang on one sec. I don't know what is going on with the internet here. It keeps pausing. Okay, we'll carry on. Sorry about that.
So I would say rewarding the behavior because sometimes they will do that, on their own. And so rewarding that when it comes up, whether that is, just an affirmation, like, wow, this is amazing. I love that you did that. Please, like, this is great. Like, when you give a compliment, even something like that it's a small reward, but it is something that, and so letting them know. And when I haven't seen it, then I typically will ask, what's going on, because, when people under you are bringing up ideas and are, being creative about how can we solve these problems, that's the typical team that I think is the best to nurture, because they want to be there. They're not just there for the paycheck. They're there because, they want, I think that employees really end up being, not like official partners, as far as like equity and things like that go, but they are helping build the company together with the owner. And so it's, again, cultivating that culture of innovation. And I think the best way to do it is really just focusing on when they do what you want them to do. And for me, it's really easy for me to like affirm someone. I would say that that's probably like my main love language. So I can do that really easily.
Sure.
But, every so often, like giving them a gift or, paying for lunch or things like, just things,
some
just a
appreciation.
touch. Yeah.
Sure.
And it doesn't need to be like their birthday or Christmas, it's like,
Right. It's something they did in that moment or that day, and you see it and catch it and you let them know.
right.
So
I think doing that and just focusing when they do the right thing and when they don't, telling them what they should do instead.
sure. Yeah. Just having some constructive criticism, and which helps them.
Yeah.
So what's a day in your life look like, and how do you juggle work and everything else?
Every day is a little different for me right now. But juggling everything, I think everything is not really a balance. I think it's more of a harmony of, some days I'm going to be more focused. Like right now I'm on vacation, right? So I'm not grinding at work at this very moment, right? But it doesn't mean that work is not a priority because, obviously I'm here, right? So it's just, I think life in itself is a juggle of priorities and understanding what is most important. So when if I am on this vacation, I am prioritizing my family, right? So I'm going to be spending way more time. But once I'm back, it's okay. Now I have all the time in the world. I'm going to go right back to prioritizing work because I don't have children. So I don't have this like crazy, I know they take up a lot of time, obviously, right now. And so I'm well aware. And so, but it's prioritizing, my marriage, my family, my rental properties, the business, all these different things. And I think it's finding a system of this is what I do this, at this time, this is what I do at this. So for example, at the end of the month, obviously I'm making sure there's no issues with the rental properties as far, because we're getting close to when we get, all the income in. And then as far as clients, I have that more operationalized of like when I check in with my clients so that it's, I'm trying to operationalize excellence. I like to think about it that way.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
So it's, just building some systems in place that help me. I have my husband, and obviously I like to have kind of a meeting with him every like I would say probably every 2 weeks or so. And it's not planned. It's just something like it comes into. I start to feel it. Like we need to talk about all these different things that are going on so that we know how to make sure that we're on the same page. And so same thing with, the company. I tell my clients, you should be having a weekly leadership meeting with your team, with your leadership team, so that everyone understands what is priority and what are we doing this quarter. So we're not focused on this, annual goal, and an annual goal is almost too big, because we start thinking in the beginning of the year, I want to do this, but it's how do we shorten the time frame from the annual goal, cut it up into quarterly goals, and then how do we make that into a weekly goal? And so I like to think that the cadence of how often you meet, whether it's with your husband, your employees, or the people, if you have like a team or someone that like comes to your house and helps you with that, how often you're meeting with them to make sure everyone's on the same page and we're prioritizing what actually matters in the business.
Sure. So, has there been a book, a podcast, or a mentor that's really changed your outlook or approach?
I would like to say a mentor has really changed my approach on relationships, and I would say my pastor, my spiritual father, that's been a great mentor for me. He's the type of person that, and I don't know if but like in love or in relationships, a lot of times I don't know if this happened to you, but there's a count in your head, like I'm giving a lot, or this person isn't giving a lot, or things like that. He's the type of person that doesn't keep count.
Okay.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'll give, I'll give, I'll give, I'll give, and like it's okay if I'm receiving less than what this person
Sure.
gives me, whether it's an employee or like, any other relationship you have. And so he has taught me to not keep count. And
Yes. Very
so,
important.
yes. And it's a lot easier said than done, I would like to know.
Sure. Sure.
But when you don't keep count, like I like to say, like love is not fair, like, or
Sure.
success is not fair, or favor is not fair. When people say like, why does everybody like this person more? And I'm doing so much more work, right? Or, things like that. And it's not fair. And so but it doesn't have to be, And so when
Yeah.
you are just a generous person, not only with your money or your heart or your time or your service, one way or another, it always comes back to you.
Oh,
And
for
so,
sure.
yes. And
The
so
more, the
he's
more
taught me that.
good the more good you do, the more good comes back, where there's just no need to keep count, to have that tally sheet of, okay, well, I did this 5 times, he did this 2 times. Everybody functions differently.
Right.
And I've learned that a lot of people, don't intentionally do things, to be hurtful or take advantage. They don't realize it. They're just there and doing what they're doing, So
Right.
yeah, it's good that your spiritual advisor is working through that with you.
He's
Yeah.
great. I mean, he doesn't tell me this. Like, it's not something that
Yeah.
I like to tell him. I learn a lot more from him by just observing him than I
Hmm.
do by what he tells me, you know? So I see him live that out, day by day, even if people hurt
Yeah.
him or, are ungrateful or whatever, I see it all the time. And so that has helped me in many aspects, but I think that in marriage and business and in relation and all types of relationships that you have,
Mhm.
when you're focused on giving, it's because you're focused on the other person and you're not focused on yourself. You're really thinking about that other person. And so that always comes back to you one way or another and helps
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. I mean, my priest is my spiritual advisor as well. I go to him, and I mean, he is just the most non-judgmental person I've ever met. And and like you, I observe him as well. And it's like I don't like for me, I don't understand it, the amount of responsibility pastors and priests take on, especially with all the different personalities they're dealing with, all at once. So I always find that just so fascinating that, wow, like they're just some of them are even keeled, and just don't read into things and just are very neutral and know how to deal with every different personality, and whether it's challenging or there's some difficult people out there's some easy people out there, so it's like I just pray for them, like I'm like, oh my gosh, I could never do this, like no way. No
100%.
way.
I think exactly the same way. They have a great amount of patience.
Yes, like God bless you, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
um, so how do you tackle learning new things, especially stuff that's outside of your comfort zone?
Before I would, like I said, beat myself up, but now I embrace it because when it's something new, I realize I'm going to become better in some way, shape, or form after I go through this. So one of the things that I do when I'm tackling something new in business, like if I'm trying to do something new or something different, is I track. So a lot of people like to say that you can't there are things that are not quantifiable. And so there's like money is an easy way to keep score because you know how much money you have in your bank account kind of thing.
Sure.
But you can, I like to think you can quantify even qualitative metrics. So for example, like even in my marriage, it's like, well, how well is my marriage doing, like right now? Like I could come up with a score, like, or A, B, C, D, F, like I could, it doesn't mean, it's not like a number that I could say, but like I would with money, but I can come up with a metric. And so when I'm starting something new in really any area, I like to see progress, even if it's brand spanking new. And this is something that I live it. And so I also teach this to my clients because unfortunately, many times they don't track anything. And so they're trying all these new initiatives and they just think like, something's going to work. And so I like to think, let's track this because what you measure, you master, So I had a client that's in the service industry, but she's also sells products. And she was telling me, I want to get to this certain amount of revenue, and I've been trying to do this for 4 years. And I haven't been able to hit it, And so I said, great. So my easiest solution is let's track it. How much do you need to bill, every week? How much product do you need to sell every week? And let's just track it for this quarter. And
Sure.
For quarter 2 of this year, she did that and she has way over exceeded her goal. I'm like, you're way on track to hit, your annual goal if you just continue. And so I think that when we're doing something new and we're not good at it, we shouldn't expect these crazy results. But if you are doing something new, if you start tracking it and you
Sure.
see this week, I'm not doing so great. Next week, inevitably, you end up doing a little bit more effort than you did the previous week.
And it shows you a pattern, where you could see, okay, well, in this quarter, it looks like during this, the third week of each month, it's dropping here. Why?
Right.
And yeah, so you are more of a statistical and analytical thinker.
I would say so. Yeah. I'm like more
Yeah.
analytical and systematic, I guess,
Yeah.
because a lot of times the people I work with are very overwhelmed. And it's like, we need to get you really clear. Because once like if you want to hit a goal, any goal, if you know right now, this week, how close am I to hitting that goal? It gives you clarity. And
Sure.
you start to see like, am I staying stuck in the same level? And am I just going to relive last year? Or am I actually progressing? And I like to say there's a formula to progress. And really,
Sure.
it's just what's your annual goal divided by your weekly metrics tracked. That will inevitably bring progress. And most people don't, like, not just business, most people don't track anything, so.
Right.
So, if you weigh yourself on the scale every week, you'll
Right.
inevitably maybe I won't eat, that ice cream later tonight or something, if you see that it's a little higher. So I like to track because it just gives me a lot of clarity as to where I'm at compared to where I want to be.
Sure. So, well, it sounds like things are going really well, and with you and your business, I know you shared that rental properties are a form of passive income for you. Is there anything else that you do for passive income and investing?
My husband does, but I just stick to what I know, and I know real estate pretty well, and so I just stick to real estate just because it's been easy to understand for me. And, I need to understand where I'm investing my money. So that's where I stick to. My husband does do other things, but I don't understand them. So,
Sure. Stay in your lane.
Yeah. So I let him play on that playground, but I stay on mine with real estate.
That's great. So as we're wrapping up the interview, what do you have planned for the next 6 to 12 months? Even
So the next 6 to 12 months, I have my biggest priority right now for my business, and I like to think we all have one, but my biggest priority right now is speaking engagements. So you will see me more in the next 6 to 12 months speaking in events, speaking in conferences, doing a lot more podcasts, and a lot more things like that so that people can really, what I'm trying to do is equip my who I'm trying to help, right? So to understand better, so that they can get to the next level. And so that is like my priority right now for the next year or so. And I'm training for it. I like to prepare for it. And yeah, so that's been my priority or my focus right now.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And if anybody would like to get a hold of you or need your services to help grow their business, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, very easy way. They can email me. Just email me at maritzamethod@gmail.com. That's an email specifically just for that. And, I can send them the link to schedule a call with me. I'm happy to offer a free call to, any of your guests if they
Awesome.
want to get more clarity on their strategy for their business. I typically, that's who I work with is business owners with a team, but happy to offer that to any of your listeners. And yeah, they could just email me. It could be that simple. And then we can schedule from there.
Great. I appreciate that. And if you would spell out your email.
Yeah. Maritza. So it's Maritza method, METHOD Maritza
Awesome.
method@gmail.com.
All right, guys. Well, that's how you get a hold of Maritza if you need any of her help with business consulting and growing your business and taking you to the next level. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.